Hey, this is Paul Ray from False Prophet, and you're listening to Misery Point Radio, man.
Loyal minions, to a brand new year of misery. I don't know how, and I don't know why, but you managed to survive the wasteland, crawling your way through the sludge, fighting your way through the desolation, and emerging from the darkness, only to find yourself forsaken here with me, again, in the no man's land that is Misery Point Radio. And for that, I thank you. I don't know about you, but I, for one, am looking forward to 2020, as I've got a lot of new coals on the fire this year. Some badass new things for the show that I'm not going to reveal just yet, but let's just say I've been planning some new shit for a while that I hope to start delivering on over the next few months. And speaking of new things, today's guest, a very special guest, returns to the show after close to a year to discuss some new adventures, some new stories, and some new magic from the land of the prophets. And of course, I'm talking about none other than Paul Ray from old school death metal pioneers, False Prophet. Now, it's no secret by now that I'm a huge fan of False Prophet. Paul and his band of miscreant metal slingers have been regular guests on Misery Point Radio. Shout out to Scott Pavarnik and Craig Gillespie as well. And today, Paul is here to discuss what's new in the Prophet camp, including the new EP, which marks the first new recorded material in almost 30 years, the recent tour with legendary Florida death metal band Obituary, and the reunion with mystical OG drummer Raymond Martin, who returns to the fold after almost 100 years. And if there's one thing about Paul, he speaks the brutal, unfiltered truth. Never one to sugarcoat his words. He spills the goods on what's been going on with False Prophet over the last year and what we have to look forward to in the future. So put down your Bible, turn off the Christmas music, and change out of that stupid sweater your better half made you wear. And start the year off right by checking out this killer conversation with a living legend. You're welcome. All right, guys, welcome back to the show, and I'm chatting today once again with Paul Ray from False Prophet. Paul, thanks for joining me again today on the show. Definitely appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, of course. So did you guys you have a good Christmas?
Yeah, everything was good, man, other than, everybody got sick on the tour, so I'm still recovering. You just have to bear with me.
Right on. Did all you Prophet guys get together and, go to church and celebrate Jesus and all that stuff?
Yeah, in our own little special way.
Awesome. Well, there's so much stuff going on with you, especially since the last time you and I sat down and chatted. It's hard to know where to start, but I guess since you brought it up, let's just talk about your recent tour with Obituary. You guys spent just about 2 weeks with them on the East Coast Riding Run tour. Was that just absolutely insane or what?
Yeah, man, it was crazy. It was really wasn't expected. God had talked to Terry, and he had mentioned they were going to do like a little short run, and we just kind of threw our name in the hat, like, well, hey, y'all want some who would be interested, and we kind of figured, yeah, okay, and next thing we heard, they were interested in us opening for them, and a little negotiating back and forth, we were able to pull it off, man. I mean, those guys were fucking awesome.
Yeah. That's crazy. So Scott's friendship with Terry and just kind of random shit happening, and all of a sudden you guys are on the bill. Was that kind of a short notice thing?
Yeah, I mean, we've played with Obituary quite a bit. I mean, doing the local opening things around Greensboro, Chapel Hill, Raleigh. So, I mean, it's not like they're not familiar with us, but
right.
For them to kind of go out of their way to put us on this tour when they probably could have just got somebody that was a little bit more well known and just. It probably could have been easier on their end than dealing with us. You know what I mean? Like, they could have just went and got an established band and said, hey, you'll do a 2-week run? Sure. Instead of, working it out with us. I mean, so, like on my behalf, I felt like they kind of went out of their way to put us on this tour. So, it was really appreciated.
Yeah. Well, I mean, considering all the stuff you guys have going on, I definitely would consider Prophet in the established band category. Just for the record, you guys are all over the place right now doing tons of killer stuff.
Yeah, but we don't have any label support. We deal with Heaven and Hell, which is a small label. So we're not like on this massive label like a lot of the older guys, and we don't have the management and everything, other bands do. So, we're kind of doing things ourselves.
Yeah.
But, we learned that Obituary does a lot of that stuff themselves, too. I mean, they kind of keep a lot of stuff in-house, which was kind of cool to see that.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome when bands can kind of stay self-contained. Number one, from a business standpoint, it kind of makes the business more profitable. But, from a management standpoint, you don't have that lack of communication that you sometimes get when you have intermediaries kind of bouncing around in the middle, fucking up the communications, not getting the messages out to people.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So what was that tour like for you? Kind of give me the day to day. How did it start? How did it end?
I mean, it was a little rough at first. I mean, we had to drive from basically Greensboro to Florida and do our first show. And, the first couple shows, you always have like the technical difficulties.
Yeah.
So the first 3 shows were a little rough technical wise. I mean, our playing, it was okay. But technical difficulties were killing us. We don't have a sound man. We're trying to work with the house guy. I mean, we had incidences like where our intro's running and they just cut it the fuck off. So we're all standing there, I'm trying to get Raymond to start the fucking song, just start it. And, just stupid shit like that, man. Poor monitors or just, plus we were the middle band, so we're not getting like a sound check. We're doing like a quick line check. And, after about 2 or 3 shows, we finally started kind of pushing for a little bit better check at the beginning of the day because we were kind of getting our ass handed to us with technical shit. But
sure.
I mean, other than that, man, it was great. Playing was pretty good. By the end of the, end of the run, of course, our playing were tighter. And you also have to remember, like, that was Raymond's second show with us on the tour. He came in and played 1 show with us, which we opened for Obituary in a bath, and then we got offered that tour. So, like, he only played 1 show with us.
And right to the tour.
Yeah, pretty much right to a tour. And, I mean, we had, like, a couple of practices, but he lives in Florida now, and we're in Greensboro, so he came in, trying to think when he came. He came in and practiced with us right before the tour. We went through the set, and then he drove back to Florida, took his kit with him, and then we came in like a few days later with our gear.
Right.
And but as far as like playing ability, man, everybody was on top of their game. There was just a lot of technical difficulties. I know, like we played the place we played in Georgia. Like, for some reason, I don't know if they were trying to push the subs or push something, but the monitors kept blowing out. So, like, Obituary sound check, they blew the monitors out. They're like, just keeps flipping the breakers. And then Extinction AD, they do their sound check. They blow the monitors, too. And, of course, we're hoping they fix all this shit before we play. And, we're going through our set at the, we didn't get a sound check. We did a quick line check. And, of course, our last song, we blow the monitors. And, but we did it live. So we were the only band. Everybody else blew them, during sound check. We blew it live. And I was like, God damn it. And, it's just little shit like that, man. But for the most part, it wasn't too bad.
Yeah. And you guys did 2 shows back-to-back at St. Vitus, right?
Yes, we did.
How was that, man? Was that just out of control?
It's awesome, man. Vitus is a cool place, man. I mean, I've played there before, and we're going back in January.
Yeah. Got that monstrosity gig coming up.
The only thing that kind of sucked is a small place. And, like, I think it was Thursday. I think we did Thursday and Friday there. And so Thursday they actually had another band playing before Obituary. So we actually had to go in, sound check, and then tear everything down. Another band came on and played. And then we had to go back in, set everything back up, and then, it was kind of...
I've never heard of a teardown mid-set before. That's kind of strange.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked that, like, a band as big as Obituary, like them having 2 big shows on one day. It was just kind of odd.
Yeah.
It was a really screwy and hectic day, but the next day was a lot better. We set up, stayed up, and everything ran smooth. The sound guy there is really awesome, man. I've dealt with him before, so he's a stand-up dude. So like we had no issues technically or anything.
Yeah, I've actually heard a lot about those house guys and some of those clubs, and he knows metal pretty well from what I understand. So he's able to probably dial in a tone for you pretty quick.
Yeah, those guys are good. Most of the time, man, these really good clubs are, pretty cool. They know their shit. I think we had our biggest problem actually in our hometown, Greensboro, which, that was kind of a clusterfuck because they got a shitty sound man there.
Nice. Did you guys, so were you all on the same bus? Was there like 35 dudes on this one bus, or how did that tour work?
We were on the same bus. I think there was 5 in Obituary, 6, 7. There's 11 of us, plus the bus driver. So,
that's nuts. Who is the craziest motherfucker on that bus?
I don't know. It'd probably have to be between Ken and Trevor.
Yeah.
Terry's the almighty voice of reasoning when shit goes bad and there has to be an executive decision made about who gets off the bus. It's usually Terry.
Oh, yeah? Was he throwing people off?
Well, not throwing them off. He was politely asking them to leave.
As far as band members or random people that showed up on the bus?
Man, it was both. Of course, in their hometown and stuff, there was a lot of shit going on. And then, some of the other towns and shit, they, had people, they had family that they knew and they would come hang out and shit. That's cool. And I think Obituary had a couple of maybe overzealous fans that, didn't know when to leave.
Gotcha.
I mean, they were cool and they were nice and all, but, sometimes you still want your personal space because, like I said, there's like 11 people on this bus, and there's really not a whole lot of privacy, man. And they're really down-to-earth guys. Like, they're not eccentric or asshole-ish or whatever you want to call it. They're just like us, man. They want their privacy.
Right.
They want alone time. They're cool with hanging out, and, we are too. But sometimes you just kind of like, okay, you've been here all day. It's time to go.
Time to go, fools. And
so there was, a few fans that didn't get that, man. That it's 2 a.m. You probably need to go.
Well, and Terry's a big dude too, so I'm sure a couple of nice words and away you go. So
yeah.
Well, you guys had a couple of days off towards the end of that tour. What did you do to decompress out there?
Actually, the first day was probably the coolest. Got like an Airbnb in Virginia where we could park the bus, and basically the guys in Obituary cooked out for us, man. I mean, like we woke up in the bus, we're in Virginia. Trevor was getting the grill together, in the meantime, the boundaries are breaking down. People are kind of loosening up. You're kind of talking more personal and shit. So
sure.
Like me and Trevor got to talking about cars and shit and cooking, and like I come to find out he does all this like barbecuing and all this shit, and we're talking about that, and I'm like, goddamn, dude, So he Trevor goes out, cooks burgers, dogs, steaks, all this shit, and John, he makes like these margaritas and shit. And we're none of us. Since none of us have ate, we're all ready to get a goddamn buzz and shit. And, we're hanging out with Ken. Ken's like the Christmas dude. It was so funny, Ken kind of had his stuff set up in a little room in the Airbnb, and he's got like all these Christmas tunes coming in. I'm like, damn, dude, what? He's like, man, I love Christmas. I just fucking love Christmas. I was like,
so you guys were literally listening to Christmas music.
Yeah, I mean, it was just crazy, man. I mean, when you get to know these guys, because you know how it is, man. People have this image of how you are or who you are, and then you get to really hang around them and, see, they're cool. They're all cool dudes, man. They're just down to earth. And, I've never met like John and Donald. Usually they're kind of off to themselves on tour.
Yeah, the Tardy brothers.
Yeah, And I just think, they're just kind of that type of people. they're cool to hang out for a little bit, but like I said, some people kind of want to wear out their welcome, and it gets old.
Right.
I can understand that too.
So that's awesome. So, how was this tour different than other small tours you might have done?
I mean, mainly just the style. I want to say size of it. I mean, we've done tours, but I've never been on a tour bus. We've done everything ourselves, just like most bands.
Sure.
You get in your van or your truck and you drive, and you play a show, and then you go to the next show. You drive. So it was nice, like actually having a finish line every night, saying, okay, once we tear down and load up, we're done.
That's the end of the day. Yeah.
In a day for us, we don't have to worry about the next show, getting there safely. And I mean, like, the Extinction AD guys, I mean, these guys were driving from every fucking show.
Yeah.
And, you got to give these guys respect, man, because, I mean, they came from, like, Long Island all the way to Florida. And then basically went all the way from Florida straight back up to New York and then back down and then back up. It's like, damn.
That's crazy. And that's like what, 12, 13, 14 stops along the way, finishing playing at, who knows, 11, 12, 1 in the morning, hopping in the truck, driving a couple hours with no sleep.
Yeah, and I think in Greensboro, their truck had broke down because they had some brake issues. So, of course, we're all kind of talking to each other. They were talking to Donald, and Donald's keeping us kind of, okay, they're supposed to be here. Like, they are supposed to show up right when they play.
Right.
So, of course, I kind of get everybody with False Prophet together. I was like, okay, when they get here, we need to get them right on the stage and, try to help them out because, that's, that could have been us, man. I mean, we could have been that band traveling by ourselves and broke down. And so, we tried to help them guys out. But, yeah, I mean, that's probably the biggest difference, man, is just, not having to worry about that final step, like getting to the next show and, just shit like that. I mean.
Yeah. So does that make you want to tour some more, or have you had your fill of playing shows for a while?
No, I mean, I would definitely tour some more. I mean, it's more up to what we can get paid. We got paid on this tour. It wasn't a whole lot. I mean, but it's a start. I mean, it's mainly going to be what we can be offered and, the true logistics of it. Because, a lot of people don't understand how much it costs to do things. I mean, like, we're an East Coast band. So to do this tour with Obituary was fairly, painless. I mean,
right.
We had to drive to Florida. Hell, we drive to Florida all the time, play shows. No big deal. But, like, if we were to do a West Coast run, I mean, then we've been offered some and we're still talking about it. But, we're trying to figure out the logistics, like, how do we get there? How do we try, and then you got to deal with time zone differences, something, we did, so you're not going to be able to drive. I mean, you're almost going to have to hire a driver or a merch person or something. I mean, there's just so much more into it, man, because, you hear people kind of complain about, prices and cost, and especially fans, but they don't realize, that like a bus is, let's just say $1,000 a day.
Right.
And, for the bands to perform the way they should, man, I mean, you got to have a driver and shit. I mean, it's hard to not do that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the business side of things. I think people, from a fan standpoint, often don't think about. They just assume that all these big record labels just pay for all this stuff to happen, and maybe in some cases it's the case, but in the event of working bands, it's just not the way it works.
Yeah, and what they need to realize is when labels put money out, they're the first ones to get back. I mean, that's kind of part of the deal too, and I mean, yeah, I mean, I would love to tour again. I mean, I hope it's not over. Like I said, we're working on shit. It's just going to, depend on, what we can get paid to do this. And basically just gets down to the dirty issue of money. I mean,
sure. And not even from a profit standpoint as much as is it going to cost us an arm and a leg and we go in the hole to make this happen? You know, it's like,
Yeah.
it's not about making a ton of money. It's about covering your ass and covering your expenses just to make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, we made a little bit of money. We did okay with merch. I mean, we were competing with two good bands, Obituary, of course, which,
Sure.
they're the main draw. But, I mean, we did good. We were selling, 200-300 a night, which, isn't bad. People wasn't ignoring us, so that was a good thing.
Awesome. Well, as an extra special bonus for those that were lucky enough to catch you on this tour, you offered a history-making exclusive token sold exclusively on this tour, the new False Prophet EP, which I believe marks the first new recorded material in, 28, 29 years, something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, man. So spill the details on the new EP. Self-titled. What's going on with this?
Well, we had, started trying to actually do a bigger EP. And our drummer we had involved at that time kind of fell through. So we had to kind of force Raymond, he, decided to come in. We kind of rushed him in here. And the only reason the EP even came out is because of this tour. We really didn't want to go out with, out having new music.
And you and I had talked about that previously. Like, man, we go and play all these shows, and I don't have anything new to offer. So you felt the pressure on this one to have something new to offer.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to play like a one-off show here and a one-off show there. Like it's not as big a deal. But when you're going to play, 11 or 12 shows, and you need to have that there. So when people go, oh, I like that song. Okay, well, here's the EP, buy it. It's only $5. So, we did the only two recordings we had, which we had Divine and we had Prayers.
Mm-hmm.
We had Claudius Creamer do a remix of Prayers from Possessed. Everybody knows who he is. And then we put like 3 live tracks from the Massacre show in Florida.
Yeah, at the Will's Pub show.
Yeah. And, we pretty much had the artwork together for when we do the real album. This is kind of the picture you're seeing are kind of the pieces we didn't choose to do on the main one. So the main artwork still hasn't been seen. But it will be, similar to what the EP is, so people will kind of get it.
Sure.
So, yeah, we had pretty much everything ready. Jeremy from Heaven and Hell, he really stepped in and, helped us out. He got this done in, 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And, I mean, so I had, as we were pulling out of the driveway, I'm trying to think, I think we left on a Wednesday. FedEx was pulling up with 100 CDs. So, that's how, quick, this went from an idea to a finished product was 3 weeks. I mean, that was having everything. Chris Ferguson, of course, who helps Jeremy all the time. He does all the layout and stuff. He busted his ass, laid everything out, designed it. So everything you see, he did. And, of course, Jeremy, made sure all of it came together and it looked professional. And, we had to give them a big fucking hand on that because I just got to the point we were just overwhelmed, man, because it's we're trying to, you're trying to get your gear together. You're trying to get merch and CDs. And,
sure,
it gets overwhelming after a while, So, I have to give a big shout out to Jeremy and Chris Ferguson and at Heaven and Hell. So
awesome. And I remember when I was at that show in Florida at Will's Pub, and it's Greg Mandigo is the guy that recorded, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was curious if there was going to be material that surfaced in some form. So what was the idea behind using, part of the live show as well as just pre-recorded material?
I mean, we just didn't have anything, more to use than that. I mean, that's all we had at our disposal. I mean, That's all the material. So, I mean, it was just, we had no choice. I mean, I didn't want to just put out 2 songs and go, here you go, man. I mean,
sure.
So, we had the live tracks, and we'd already talked to Greg, and he'd already mixed a couple of tracks for us that sounded really good.
Right.
And I mean, they sounded really good.
Yeah, I heard those. Those were killer.
And so we picked like 3 that we thought were the best, and just figured we'll just add that. I mean, because it really does. I mean, because when you start doing a CD, it really doesn't matter if you put 1 song or 10 songs. It's going to be this price point,
Right.
So it's like, we might as well put as much as we can put on there that sounds good. We didn't want it to sound like shit, but I mean,
well, I doubt that anything was going to sound like shit, especially the recorded material, because you're working with Jamie King, of course, who's legendary, especially in your neck of the woods. I do want to ask you, though, before we talk about that recording process, the idea of having Claudius remix a track, how did that come into existence?
Actually, it's because we played a show at Terrence Hobbs' house on the Hobbs Fest.
Yeah, the Hobbs Fest.
And we had let him listen to the song, and he kind of brought it up to Scott, like, hey, man, I'd like to do a mix of that. And we were like, oh, okay. I mean, I don't know why, but okay.
Pet project.
So it really started off with Terrence was supposed to do one, but, of course, they went on tour. And we were kind of hashing around, like, well, who else could do one? And Claudius was like, well, I'll do one. And we're like, okay. So, and to be fair with Claudius, like, he only had like a week to do this.
Yeah.
So I know he could do a better job. I mean, I think the mix-wise, it sounds really good. I think there was some volume issues. Maybe his volume was a little lower than some of the other stuff. But everybody hearing it needs to know that, he did this in like a week for us. This wasn't something he had, he didn't have all the time in the world to do it.
Sure. Well, it's pretty badass, though, when you think about it, technical specs aside, how many people get to say they have a Claudius remix on their album? I mean, that's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, I mean, we just thought it'd be something cool, kind of see how Claudius would mix what we were recording. Kind of, hear his take on it. And I really dug it. I mean, I thought it was cool as shit.
I don't think I've heard of a recording where it's actually got the same song on the same media with 2 different mixes. That's definitely unique and original. I can't think of another time, to be honest with you.
Well, that's cool. Maybe we did. Yeah.
There you go. False prophet, blazing trails. So speaking of Jamie King, then I know that you guys you went in to work with him a little bit, partially for the Cam Lee split, which is about to hit the States. How was it working with him?
It's great, man. Jamie's really what we needed. I haven't worked with any recording studios in a long time, and the studio I dealt with previously, he's an older guy. He's got money, so he would kind of get in kicks every now, like, oh, I want to record a death metal album. Okay. He talked to him. Then, I wouldn't hear from him for a long time. So, of course, go to Facebook. Hey, man, who would my, friends and bands, who would you recommend to record with?
I remember that post.
And, Jamie King himself actually came on there. He said, I would love to do you guys. I was like, okay, I mean, cool. And it was cool that he actually wanted to do it, not just, I want to make money to do it.
Sure.
You can't buy maybe compassion's the word, or not compassion, but the excitement, he was actually excited about recording False Prophet. Which I was like, I don't know why. I mean, but
I talked to him a few months back, and I specifically asked him about that, and he was fucking stoked. I mean, that made his day. He was really fucking excited to work with you guys, so I thought that was super cool.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't pay money for that enthusiasm. Like when somebody really wants to do something instead of just get paid. Well, it's my job. This is what I do. Jamie was like genuinely excited, and I thought that was cool as shit. And, I'd never worked with Jamie, so I didn't know what to expect. But, I mean, I was happy. Jamie's got that kind of he definitely has that old school and new school vibe. Like,
right.
he gets it. And, because, like when it came down to like click tracks and shit, our drummer at the time was wanting click tracks, and Jamie was like, why don't y'all just play the songs? Just play them. I'll go back and edit all that shit. Play them how, play it. And I knew I was going to like him from that moment on because, I've never done click tracks and played to them. Like, I think you should play the song, how it is,
So did your recordings, were they basically live recordings, like old school style, where you guys all basically just jammed out the song and he recorded the performance?
Yep.
Oh, that's fucking sick.
So basically what we did was, we recorded everything at one time, and that would, to lay the drum tracks down.
Right.
And then, we would go back and then just play along with the live drum tracks. And basically that's how we did it back in the day. I mean, most of the time, Sign of the Cross, that was like a true live recording. We recorded everything at one time. But like, Second Death was more like this. We would go in as a band, play together, record the drum tracks, and then go back in, do guitars, bass, vocals, so on and so forth. And, that's how Jamie did it. And so he gets it, man. Like he can do all that shit, and I like that. I like that he just suggested, hey, just play the song, man. We'll see how it feels, and
plus it doesn't lock you into insane amounts of studio time to record, track by track by track by track by track if you've got the basics already down.
And I mean, like I've never been one, like I'm not into the click track stuff. I mean, I would just rather play the song, and then whatever tempo you play it at, that's what you play it at.
Right.
I don't want to have to like be focused on how fast I'm playing. Just play it. I mean, because sometimes it's more of a pain in the ass to, play along to a click and keep in time instead of just letting your body do what you feel comfortable at that moment. I mean, but yeah, Jamie, he did an amazing job, man. He made everybody feel comfortable, and he was not overly, like he didn't try to force anything force us to do anything we didn't want to do.
He wasn't overly producery.
No, but he had ideas, and he would, let's try this, and so he was cool with trying different things, and that was awesome. Especially when it came to the vocals, because the vocals kind of came across as an accident, really. But yeah, he had great ideas without pushing his wheel on us, so it doesn't sound like Jamie King. It still sounded like False Prophet.
Yeah, I remember when you played me that track in that rental truck that you guys had. Which also, I remember you guys trying to figure out how to work that fucking MP3 player in that thing. It was like, how many musicians does it take to figure out an MP3 player? But you were really excited. You were like, dude, check out these vocals. And you were super proud of that. And I remember thinking that's really cool to have that level of excitement about a project. And it had probably been a long time since you'd felt that way, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, I'd been listening to like the Possessed stuff, like the newer vocals, and they wasn't like quite as, in the death metal, everybody's doing just the garbage can, real deep vocal. It's not real deep, but they're clean. And that came about me and him trying different microphones and shit. And I really wasn't singing the way I normally was. I was just kind of going through it. And I'd listen, and we did a playback just listening to the mics. And I was like, he's like, you like that? And I was like, I do. And I was like, I also like the vocals. Like, I didn't go overly deep and where they're, unintelligible or whatever. And I was just kind of digging that vibe at the time. I don't know if that's something I'll stick with, but, for those songs, I thought it sounded pretty cool. I mean.
Yeah, no, it sounded great. And again, I like the fact that you were super excited about it. And that made me feel really awesome. Like, there's some cool shit coming down the road from False Prophet. I promise you that. So, well, let's check out one of those new songs right now. This one is called Prayers of Emptiness.
Pray with words off of your mouth to a God whom I have no doubt shall see. Just with this holy way, realize you've all been betrayed.
Well, now that the EP is done and you've done some work in the studio, are there more tracks you guys have already recorded? I mean, it's been put out there that you guys are still working on new material. Where are you at with that right now?
No, that's it. Everything you've heard is released. I mean, we did that with our previous drummer, so we won't. Everything else now we'll probably redo, and we'll probably actually redo the tracks that are out there now with Raymond, and continue to write. As far as recording, I don't know exactly how we're going to do this because since he lives in Florida, we're here, Jamie's here.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely like for him to go into the studio. I really like the way Jamie did the drums. I mean, of course, Jamie is a drummer,
right? Yeah,
and he makes the drums sound incredible, and he makes it look easy as fuck. It's like he's dicking around, and then all of a sudden your drums sound. I mean, we're definitely going back to Jamie. Like, there's no doubt about that. It's more going to be like, how are we going to do it? Like, I mean, I've got Logics and stuff, and I can record. We're all using Kippers. Like,
right.
There's no secrets to our tone, man. We're using Kippers and direct. Just recording direct. And I think Jamie, he puts a little twist on it to make it sound a little different. And
well, and he has his own Kemper profiles too, which is really cool.
Yeah, and we gave him our amps to actually do profiles with too. So he actually has our real heads that we would carry out profiled also.
Oh, and that's really cool because that from a performance standpoint, you get as close as possible to the recording tone that you do for a live show, and vice versa.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So I don't know how we're going to move forward with it, but we definitely will. And of course, it would be nice if Raymond lived here and we could practice once a week. And of course, we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I hate even saying anything anymore because every time I say something pops up. I mean, because we were supposed to start recording actually this December because, we didn't have anything planned, and then the Obituary thing popped off. And,
right.
But I mean, I've got a lot of lyrics written. The music will have to come next. I mean, I've got a few songs I've started on that we need to finish.
So there's material, but maybe it's just not ready to go yet.
Yeah, it's not ready to record yet. And like I said, we're just gonna have to kind of cross that bridge when we get there. I mean, it's probably gonna be, us recording stuff in the practice hall and emailing it to Raymond, and then him putting what he wants to do. And then with Jamie, I guess what we're gonna have to do now is just when we record now, we're just going to come in and stay there all day, man, and just record as many drum tracks as we can. Because I mean, I live close by, so Jamie's, he usually has some weeknights open, so I can go there on a weeknight and just go through my tracks, or try to do it at home and just send them to him and let him, work his magic, make it sound like it's supposed to. And all that's up in the air, man. It's just
sure. Well, you guys have been doing a lot of stuff, and the last time I spoke with you, you'd mentioned, anytime you have to replace a member, it kind of sets you back. But this kind of reunion with Ray doesn't seem like it's really set you guys back that far. You're moving forward pretty quick.
I mean, it hasn't on the live part, but, on the recording part, it has, because, we'd already been working with the previous drummer, and he knew the stuff. We were already playing actually songs that we haven't recorded yet. And when that kind of went to hell, it's just, there's always a setback.
Sure.
It's somehow, I mean, I know it doesn't look like when you go out, when you lose a drummer and you have one come in, the next thing you know, you're on tour. It doesn't look like you lost.
Sure. But is it exactly how you want it? It's one thing from an audience perspective, but from an internal standpoint, you've probably got quite a bit of points that you want to hit with people.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it'll all work out, man. I mean, I think I have a good group of people around me right now. If Raymond works out and can, manage the long distance thing,
Sure.
and we manage it, I mean, we've got Scott in the band, who's a, great guitar player. He's a good guy. He's always networking, and
Yeah, that guy works tirelessly for sure.
yeah, and I mean, we got Craig, man. He came in. He's a monster of a bass player. He's a good guy all around. Like he gets along with people, on the stage, off the stage. And I mean, like people that haven't been in bands don't understand, you can't just have like these phenomenal players, then assholes off the stage,
Right.
You have to be able to get along with other bands. I mean, just like this with Obituary, like, we could have been a bunch of dickheads and they could have said, you know what, I will never go on the road with these motherfuckers again. And a lot of bands have those members, a certain member that's a pain in the ass and people know it and they don't want to work with them. And,
right.
So, Craig, he's a good fit all the way around, man. And Raymond, he's a good dude, man. He's a solid drummer. He just had to come in, pretty much after, not playing for like 5 years and like play at a level that he used to.
Right. And Ray was your second drummer from back in the day, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was. I mean, I pretty much call him one of our original drummers, and the reason being, like, like when we first started, people that know our history, we were a thrash band,
right?
Because at that time, there were no death metal players. I mean, I could barely get people to play a Megadeth cover, much less, goddamn a Dark Angel or fucking something, heavier,
right?
So, like, I kind of played what I could get people to play, which was more of the thrash. Thrash was, a little bit more acceptable. And it really wasn't until we got Raymond in the band that we kind of started that death metal vibe, the blast beats, the heavier, faster drum parts and shit. And, which Raymond's still a good thrash type drummer, but he's just kind of got that more death metal style.
Yeah.
So, he kind of, I mean, like, he was really the one that helped me write most of the Second Death stuff. Before Tim ever came back the second time, before we recorded Second Death, I was writing Second Death and Satan's Name and a lot of the songs on there. So he actually wrote a lot of them songs. He just never performed on them.
Huh.
So
there's some history for you folks right there. So I know that you'd posted when you lost Matt, and so did Ray reach out to you, or did you reach out to him?
I'd kind of been talking to him, man, off and on. We just had some issues with Matt early on, and actually to the point I told him we'll just finish this, and you can go on.
Sure.
And that's when I should have ended that whole ordeal with us. And, but he didn't want to quit at that time. He was like, no. He said, I'll work on my attitude and stuff. And we were like, okay. But so I'd been talking to Raymond, like, hey, man, is there any, would you be interested? I mean, I would love to have somebody live here and play. It makes our life easier.
Right.
I mean, of course. So, like, for us, just to play a local show here, Raymond has to drive 8 hours.
Right. Damn.
So, it's not like when we all lived here, we all had members that were here, if a national came through and they needed an opener, we could, oh, sure, we'll do it. It's across town. And that kind of changes the logistics of everything with us now. So I had been talking to him about it and, just kind of put the word out there that, I didn't think Matt was going to make it. And he, kind of voiced his concern, and we talked and talked. And finally he kind of agreed to do it. And that's when, we were about done with dealing with Matt and his attitude. And just figured it's just time to move on, man. It just...
So you and Ray had stayed in contact over the years then?
Yeah, I mean, me and him talk, he kind of, I know there for a while, he kind of got off Facebook and shit. And, I didn't hear from him for a while. Hell, I think I tried calling him one time and his number had been disconnected. And we kind of hooked back up, and I tried to stay in touch with him and shit. I mean, we've known each other forever, man, and we've had our issues in the past. I mean, but it just seems like it's so hard to find a good, solid drummer that has their head on their shoulders, man. It's like it's just amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's awesome to see you guys kind of reunite, and Prophet, I think, is definitely on an awesome trajectory. So coming up later on this month, of course, you kind of touched on it earlier, but you've got this epic show with Monstrosity that's kind of been in the works for a while. Originally was supposed to be, happen a few months back, and for whatever reason, I don't know, promotion-wise, it fell through. So now it's rescheduled for the 25th. You guys looking forward to that one?
Oh, yeah. I mean, anytime you play with Monstrosity, man, that'll be a cool show. We got to play with Lee with Terrorizer, so that was cool. We played with him. So, I get to play with Lee playing guitar and drums, so I thought, that was pretty cool, man. Actually, Lee was with Obituary when we played with him in Chapel Hill, and he came up to me after we played, and he's, False Prophet. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, man, we used to send tapes and stuff back together, and, back and forth. And I was like, and when he was talking to me, I didn't recognize, like, for some reason, like, I just didn't put him in that scene, like, with Obituary. Like, and I'm like, who the hell is this? I can't. And I'm looking at him, man, and I'm like, damn, he looks fucking familiar. And finally, I was like, that's goddamn Lee Harrison, motherfucker. I was like, so I went to Ken from Obituary because Lee went on the bus. I was like, hey, man. And I told him the situation. I was like, tell Lee I'm sorry I didn't recognize him. And later on, I ran into him, and we talked a bit longer, and I told him the situation. I was like, dude, for some reason, he was filling in for Donald on Obituary, and for some reason, like, that just never registered in my head that, like, Lee would be filling in Obituary. And so, like, he was just super cool about it, man, and we talked about the tape trade and kind of shit going on, and it's just cool to see, guys like that, that kind of remembered us and still cool as shit. And he was cool as shit at the Nile show with Terrorizer, which I never got to see Terrorizer live, so I was going to be there whether we were playing it or not, and it's definitely going to be cool to share the stage with Monstrosity, man. I mean, we've got to share the stage with a lot of awesome bands this year, man, and it's just cool.
Yeah, awesome. So what should we expect from False Prophet in 2020? Do you guys have any major plans?
Man, honestly, we don't. We're always pushing for something. I mean, we're always working on something, shows, tours, whatever. But the industry, shit happens, shit doesn't happen.
Yeah, it either happens at the drop of a dime with no notice, or your plans that you've worked on the whole year just fucking fall through the cracks.
I mean, I would love to see like a West Coast tour happen.
Fuck yeah.
I mean, I would even have loved, like the Possessed run that's going out now. I would have loved to get on that on the East Coast. I mean, anything with Possessed, I would love to play. Just wasn't in the cards for us.
What I would like to see is a 70,000 tons False Prophet on that would be killer.
I would love to, man, and this year would be awesome, man, because, I mean, everybody we know is getting that. I mean, Suffocation's on there. Incantation just got announced. There's so many good bands on there this year. I can't remember them all. But, yeah, I mean, we would definitely love to do that. I mean, that would be like a no-brainer. We're there, and we've tried to talk to the people, and we have actually people pushing for us to do it. I mean, I guess it's just getting, your ear, your name in the right ear, and you know how it goes, man.
Yeah,
just,
for sure.
Right people and the right place at the right time, man.
Sure. Well, I would say that, this year I think there's a lot of stuff, a lot of possibilities for you guys. I see a lot of shows being played. Hopefully you guys can kind of square down some more studio time and get some new material at least recorded in the books. But I'm really excited for what you guys are working towards, and I'm really excited to get my hands on, of course, the new EP, and that's going to be kind of a occupying regular rotation on my side. I do want to ask you real quick. I forgot. So the Lucifer Experiment, did that not make it on the EP?
It did not. No.
Okay. You just weren't happy with it, or was it just a time thing?
Just a time thing. I mean, we had already started playing that song with Matt. We'd actually played it out live.
Right.
That probably would have been the next one we would have done in the studio. But since all that went bad, it's just now we've got to get Raymond to learn that and, put his spin on it.
Sure.
And,
well, there you go. There's one track off the new album right there.
Yeah, we have that one and a few others, and it's just, that just goes back to having to backtrack when you lose members, or
sure,
when you can't get somebody who wants to hang in there.
There you go. Commitments are a big thing, right? So,
yeah.
Well, of course, anytime you guys have new projects that you want to talk about, you've got a home here on Misery Point Radio, and I always, you can count on me for support. I'm always there for you guys, and anytime you need something, you let me know, and we'll pimp your shit here on the old radio. And a happy almost birthday, by the way. You got one coming up in a couple of days.
Yep, I'll be 50. Old as fuck.
Old as fuck. I'm right behind you, so you're not that old. So, all right, guys, ladies and gentlemen, Paul Ray, False Prophet. Thanks again, brother.
I appreciate it, man.
Always awesome to have the Prophet dudes here on the show, and I'm sure it won't be the last time, as there is plenty of stuff coming out from the Prophet camp in the near future to keep you excited. Definitely, if you get a chance to get your hand on that new EP, I promise you won't be disappointed. The 2 new songs are awesome. The live recordings from Will's Pub are awesome. And what's coming out down the road from False Prophet will, no doubt, be awesome. And speaking of awesome, that's you guys. Thanks for hanging out with me on Misery Point Radio for this last year and some change. I appreciate all the support. So do me the solid, like the pages, share the pages, subscribe to the show, and also keep your eyes peeled on the YouTube channel. Right now, I don't do a whole lot with it, but if you head on over to YouTube, subscribe to it, you can listen to the show on YouTube, and coming soon, we're going to be doing streaming, lots of live stuff, some full video coming your way over the next couple of months. So make sure you don't miss out on any of that awesomeness by being ready for it when it releases. So subscribe to the show on YouTube. I would definitely appreciate it. And now, closing out the show, one more song from False Prophet. This one is called Divine.
Darkness embraces